Hey everybody, thank you for watching my video podcast. Thank you for tuning in again, so to speak. I appreciate it. I appreciate that those of you who watch my podcasts or listen to them may have gotten something out of them. I would appreciate it if you uh, like my video podcasts, or if you make a comment, especially ask a question, that kind of thing. That's really useful and helpful to me. It helps me to know a little bit about how maybe to be more helpful to y'all and what I might describe or explain or whatever. Um, and it makes it more of a participation, if you will. So today I'm going to talk about something that hopefully kind of connects together all of the podcasts that I've done so far. As you know, the name of the series of one of the series of my podcast is just called Way of Being. Um, I I have done 3 episodes and will do more based on the content of my book, The Way with Children. But generally speaking, my podcasts and video podcasts are just simply the heading for all of them is Way of Being, Way of Being, Way of Being. Exploration of being versus doings. So, to that end, I'm going to explore with you and introduce everybody to a woman by the name of Dorothy Lee. So, I have a book here. It's called Freedom and Culture, written by Dorothy Lee. Dorothy Lee was a cultural anthropologist from the early 1900s. She passed away 1970-ish, something like that. She, as cultural anthropologists go, she was quite famous. She lectured at Harvard and a lot of different cool places like that. This particular book cost $1.95. That's how old this book is. I have no idea how I found out about this person, Dorothy Lee. I discovered this book, I'm going to say about 15, 16, 17 years ago, something like that. And I'm sure I heard reference from somebody about just the name, Dorothy Lee. And I tracked the book down, and I don't even remember, but pretty cool things that she came up with, or the way that she describes similar concepts that are described in other places. Some of my video podcasts, actually. So when I describe the Planck-Einstein theory of relationodynamics, Peg Thor, go watch it or go listen to it. It's a kind of a different way of explaining what she also explains. So, as an as a cultural anthropologist, sorry, I'm going to have to practice that a few times. One of the things that she does is she went into societies and really tried to get to know them. So she was an anthropologist having to do with the culture of that society. And she did this with several societies. And she had a particular method, and she made particular discoveries. And a meta discovery, if you will, that she described a lot about is this idea called Codification of Reality. So I'm going to read a little bit about what she says. These are kind of long quotes, but if you've never even heard of Dorothy Lee, well then just listen. All right. So, according to the conceptual framework of my culture, I perceive my own behavior differently from the way in which people of another cultural framework view theirs. And which of these is the true way? When I throw a ball, do I perform an aggressive causal act, as my culture predisposes me to believe? Or does the ball leave my hand, as the Greenland Eskimo puts it? Or do I merely actualize the ball's potential to move, as the Navajo would have it? These are different ways of perceiving the same situation, but which is the truth? Are they all true? All different facets of the same truth? I turn to the study of other cultures largely to answer this question. I believe that these are all different codifications of the same reality and different responses in terms of these codifications. Okay, so in language, so a culture has a particular set of beliefs, has a particular set of sort of historical experiences over time, and they say things in a certain way that's sort of in accordance with this set of experiences that this culture has had historically. So the language is connected with the culture, is connected with the beliefs, is connected with everything having to do with that society. And she's saying that there's 3 distinct ways to perceive a ball being conveyed by a hand. And in her society, which was Greek and American, you throw the ball, and it's a causal act. This hand throws that ball. But for the Navajo, for example, my hand just nearly actualized motion that the ball sort of had already. Now, she then asked the questions, which one of those is true? I find right now in society, year 2020, in the month of August, that there is a lot of strife. There are a lot of different kind of views. There are a lot of differing views. There are a lot of antagonistically opposing views. And we all come from different places, and one of the most difficult things it is for one human to do is to try to perceive what that other human over there perceives. Perceive what they perceive. Feel what they feel. Wonder about what they wonder about. So I'm going to continue to read here a little bit. When I study other cultures, I find a different codification. I get a different glimpse of reality from a different starting point. I find other equally self-consistent systems of symbolization with diametrically opposed principles of validation of experience. Thus, I am enabled to some extent to go beyond my own finite view. I am enabled to see my culture as one of many possible systems of relating to the self, to the universe, and to question tenets and axioms of which I had never been aware. How cool is that? So in her work, she's figured out that it's not just that people are different. People's entire codification of reality is different. Depending on, like I mentioned, everything having to do with their culture. And I've mentioned this in other podcasts, culture can be different between one home and the home next to it. So my codification of reality could be different than the codification of reality of my neighbor right here, 30 yards away, or right over there, about 70 yards away. Different codifications of reality come together when people get married, and then their children experience sort of a mixture of the codification reality. How I perceive everything is my codification of reality. So I'm going to read again. She basically talks about, diving into these cultures. Eventually, I plunged into the experience of another culture until I found myself liking what the members of the other society liked, frightened by what gave them fear, grieved by their sorrows, delighted in the situations which fill them with satisfaction and joy, and until their categories seemed natural and right, and my own rigid and misleading. In fact, I sometimes lost myself in the way of life of society I was studying until my children complained that, after all, they were not Trobrianders or Tikopia. What I had to say seemed so obvious to me that, at this point, I could bring myself to write at all only by reminding myself that I was writing for people who were ignorant of this particular culture. This approach is the common basis of whatever unity there is in this volume. This volume actually is a set of lectures that she gave and different articles that she wrote over time. So what she's saying there is, I got my mind so involved in the codification of reality of the culture that I traveled to study, and then came back and then went through all of the things, that all my notes and photographs and writings and everything. And she would reflect on having visited there. She lived there for a long time, and she'd write about it. Anyway, when she'd get her mind into the codification of reality of that other culture, until she feared what they feared, she appreciated what they appreciate. She talked funny to her kids. They're like, "Mom, I'm not one of those people from that culture. Stop talking that way. I don't understand you." Whatever, however it was that worked out. And then she'd have to snap out of it and "Oh yeah, my kids are, from the American culture. They don't even know what I meant by that statement that I just made." So farther on in the book, there is one of her other lectures that became one of the chapters in the book is called Codifications of Reality, Lineal and Non-Lineal. So this is a long paragraph that I'm going to read, but it, I think, sort of sums the idea up quite well. The people of the Trobriand Islands, these are islands that are near New Guinea, by the way, codify and probably apprehend reality non-lineally in contrast to our own lineal phrasing. Basic to my investigation of the codification of reality on these two societies, theirs and ours, is the assumption that a member of a given society not only codifies experienced reality through the use of the specific language and other patterned behavior characteristics of his culture, but that he actually grasps reality only as it is presented to him in this code. So basically, I am able to grasp reality and perceive reality based on the codification of the culture that I grew up in. The assumption is not that reality itself is relative, rather that it is differently punctuated and categorized, or that different aspects of it are noticed by or presented to the participants of different cultures. So it's not that reality is necessarily different, it's that I experience reality different than you do if we come from different cultures. We notice different things, we perceive things, we categorize things just distinctly. My own position is that there is an absolute reality, and that communication is possible. Oh wait, sorry, I need to go backwards. If reality itself were not absolute, then true communication, of course, would be impossible. My own position is that there is an absolute reality, and that communication is possible, if, then, that which the different codes refer to is ultimately the same. A careful study and analysis of a different code and of the culture to which it belongs should lead us to concepts which are ultimately comprehensible when translated into our own code. Okay, in other words, she's saying, so different cultures perceive things in different ways. So if I can study other cultures and maybe see things according to their code and translate their code into my own, maybe I can actually perceive different aspects of reality that I could never perceive before, or I can perceive how they see it, at least. Last sentence. It may even eventually lead us to aspects of reality from which our own code excludes us. So that last sentence is very interesting to me. The process of trying to see things from somebody else's view. That process of deeply trying to get into somebody else's motives, space, see them as people, and inquire of them, try to understand them. It may be that process allows me now to see aspects of reality that my own codification of reality up to that point made it impossible to see. So this goes beyond prejudice. It goes beyond judgmentalism. It's a different codification of reality. So, how can we as people codify reality in so many ways and so broadly that we begin to see reality from so many views that we begin to perceive it for all that it is. Because I don't think we do. I don't think an individual perceives reality as it is very often. And so I get little new snippets of it as I see people as people and as I try to see from behind their eyes. And I think there are moments when people get flashes of what reality actually is. And there's words for that, being touched by the spirit, nirvana, satori, things like that. When we see things as they are, as opposed to through a glass darkly, to quote Paul. Anyway, so there you go. Some thoughts about that reality might not be what we think it is, and if we do internal exercises, maybe we will see reality and what is external of us, or is it external of us, in completely new ways. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff to this channel of mine, and we will see you next time.